Are we calling women birds to demand accountability from them, or are we looking to humiliate and punish them for their actions? Let's get into it.
Warning, listening to us
might radicalize you.
Hi everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Unholy Feminists with me, Gail, and my gorgeous co-host, Kat. Hi Kat, how you doing? How's the world treating you?
Hi, Gail. I am doing okay, still surviving. How are you doing?
Yeah, same. Our pattern's hunting. So I'm so stressed. But
You're moving when?
I'm supposed to move out of my current place by ending of this month.
Mm-hmm.
So I have roughly 2 weeks-ish to make sure I find a place.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the moving. I have to pack and then unpack. Oh, hectic.
I know, moving is crazy. I hope that, you'll be done with that soon and settle in. I know that you just moved, not even a year ago.
Yeah. Tiring. So, quickly getting into our topic for the day. I have actually been guilty of this, where I see women on the internet and then maybe they are doing something that I think is internalized misogyny or is blatant misogyny, or they're doing something that is carrying water for patriarchy. I'll probably send it to my friends and I'll be like, oh, she's such a bird. Oh, look at this pick me. And I know we have like a different episode on pick me before. If you're interested, you can watch that for more details on that. But I think now I'm seeing sort of an abuse of these words. They are gradually becoming buzzwords to, dehumanize women, because a lot of people are using it in thinking that, oh, I'm just calling this person out. But it's very humiliating, because why are there so many names for women who carry water for the patriarchy and there are none for men? So I think in the beginning, when I started unpacking how calling women birds can actually go back to misogyny, I thought of a solution as to call people birds without gendering it. So if I see a cis man being carrying water for the patriarchy, I'm going to call them a bird. I'm not going to limit my bird calling to just women. But yeah, that's the conversation we are having today. So Kat, my first question to you is, with this growing phenomenon, are we actually creating room for women to learn and unlearn by looking to humiliate them and dehumanize them with some of the names we call them? And at what point do we as feminists think we are crossing the line between accountability and policing?
So, I actually did not know that bird was a thing. This is the first time that I've heard the
OMG!
term. Yeah. This is the first time that I've ever heard the term being used.
Interesting.
I mean, I know pick me, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think so. Bear started out as how pick me is used, where when they see women who are putting other women down. So for instance, if they come across a page where the mother is obviously centering the man they are married to over their children and maltreating their children, they'll call the person a bird. So it's in line with pick me, kind of, but currently and very recently, I'm seeing a lot of people using it to victim blame. So you might see a video of a woman who is an abusive relationship. Maybe they are talking about it, that, oh, their husband does this, their husband that does, and they are still in the relationship, or maybe they left and they went back, and then you see a lot of women under the comments calling them birds. Now it's just become a bit of a buzzword. People are just using it with I'm starting also to think of it as some women ordering themselves, and now it feels like there's a
Mhm.
bit of a hierarchy, because if you're calling another woman a bird for doing something, obviously you think you are better than them. Obviously you think that's something that can never happen to you. So that's like a little bit of a backstory.
Also, I think that we do have a word for men who cater to the patriarchy. We call
Mm.
them incels.
Oh,
So,
true, true.
yeah.
But see, that does not feel as dehumanizing as calling a woman a bird is.
I don't know, Gail. I mean, when I say incel, I say it with all the spite, all the
Yeah, I get that.
dehumanizing.
But it still does
Yeah,
not, we are not likening men to animals, are we?
that's true.
It just feels a
We
bit
should have an animal for
dehumanizing.
them. But you know what? No, no,
Right.
no, no, no. I don't want to compare them to any animal because I mean, it's unfair for the animal.
But, like, yeah, I think so. Today we are just talking about when we tend to cross
Yeah.
a line from, holding women accountable and just like looking to humiliate and punish them for the actions they might be in.
Yeah. Yeah, I got distracted a little bit about that. But back to the question. I I know that there's a running joke online where people say I support women's rights and women's wrongs.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I've said that too. But I actually don't mean it.
Yeah.
I actually think that it's very, very harmful when women carry water for the patriarchy, when women internalize misogyny or internalize benevolent sexism. I think that those women do need to be held accountable for it.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if a woman attends Turning Point USA conference and they're like, I think women shouldn't have the rights to vote anymore, or they're like, I think my husband should vote for me, like, fuck off. We have feminists from so many years before had fought like tooth and nail to try to give us the right to vote. They were being jailed, they were being arrested, trying to give us the right to vote, trying to give us all the rights that we have today. And these women, especially white women, just prance around being like, I'm so dumb, I just want my husband to make decisions for me. Like, excuse me, I'm gonna judge you for that, and I'm gonna call you a pick me, and I'm gonna like in a way I'm not going to dehumanize them, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to shame them because what they're doing is very, very bad for feminism, for gender, for women all around the world. Because if you look at The Handmaid's Tale, the women who are aligning themselves with, it's been a long time since I read the book, but the women who are aligning themselves with the men, the women who are literally holding the handmaids down to be raped, those women are bad too. And we can't just say that, oh, well, they didn't know any better. Maybe if it's something benevolent, but if they are actively advocating for the patriarchy, for the oppression of women, those women do need to be held accountable. Those women do need to be shamed just as much as in any other cases because they are like, if you look at people like J.K. Rowling,
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Rowling is actually funding the legal fees for people to sue the NHS because they refuse to be trans exclusive. So women
Huh?
like her, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna hold your hand and create space for you to grow or try to educate you. She's past that. She's beyond that. So she does need to be shamed and she does need to be held accountable because that is despicable. You know, women are also capable of doing horrendous things as well.
Yeah.
And I think we run the risk of going to bioessentialism if we think that, oh, just because she's a woman, we need
She
to be
can't.
benevolent, we need to be
Yeah.
kind, we need to be understanding because women can't do any wrong, and women who are actively harming other women, they just don't know any better, in a way almost infantilizing them a little bit. I mean, yeah, choice feminism,
Yeah.
maybe they've been brainwashed by the patriarchy, but that doesn't exempt them from the consequences. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think I also sometimes say I support women's wrongs and rights, but like obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
In real life, that's not something that I practice. I am all for holding women accountable. I think right now I'm personally at a point where sometimes it starts to feel like dogpiling, especially when the situation is not as simple. So you gave an example of someone like J.K. Rowling. Like obviously, we all know she's unsavable. She doesn't want to be saved actually, so she's unsavable. But let's say you come across a woman who is in like a domestic violence situation.
Yeah.
Why is that the point where you think that, I need to hold this person accountable by calling them names? Like in that particular moment, what do you think calling the person a bird or pick me exactly is going to do? Besides shaming them for staying in an abusive situation. So I feel like now on social media, it's just getting to a point where the words that are used, which are pick me and bears, is simplifying people's experiences and totally ignoring like the context behind whatever someone is going through. Because sometimes generally even me, there are times I come across some videos, I don't even watch it through the moment they say something that I clock as like, pick me behavior. The first thing I think is
Mm-hmm.
she's a bird, and then I move on. I don't even watch like
Mm-hmm.
the rest to get context or anything. So yeah, like what are we doing? Are we critiquing so that women can change, or are we just like, it's starting to feel like an Olympics of, I'm better than you, kinda.
So, I do feel like this conversation is nuanced
Mm-hmm.
because there are degrees to that, right? If
Yeah.
a woman is a victim of domestic violence or
Mm-hmm.
domestic abuse or in an abusive relationship
Mm-hmm.
and she is protecting the abuser,
Mm-hmm.
then we can still say that she's a victim and she has been manipulated. Just because she's defending the abuser doesn't make her any less of a victim.
Yeah.
So in that case, it really doesn't help her if we are shaming her or calling her names or humiliating her or anything like that. Like, how are we holding her accountable when she's not the perpetrator? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But if, for example, she is in an abusive relationship or in an abusive situation and she, in turn, is abusing other women.
Yeah.
So, an example, Ghislaine Maxwell,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't know the situation of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe she was also being abused.
Yeah.
But does that exempt her from recruiting other girls and luring them in and also getting them into this sex trafficking ring?
Mm-hmm.
No, she still needs to be held accountable for
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because those are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are a victim and if you have been manipulated into supporting your perpetrator, that is one thing because what you're doing is you're harming yourself. But if you go out there and if you, I don't know, like if you're Erica Cook and you're spewing out whatever your late husband Charlie Cook has been talking about, then yeah, I'm gonna shame you for that. You know what I mean? Like there are layers to that. It's a case by case scenario.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with you. That is a nuanced conversation, which I feel like we've already answered the next question, which was whether the terms are, useful. And I think think you put it very well, because it's not even that we should necessarily stop using these words. Like, we are not saying you should not call other women pick me, or you should not point out someone has internalized misogyny, but context matters, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, context matters.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are ignoring context and just doing this person did this, I'll never do that, so I'm better than her, so she's a pick me, then
Mm-hmm.
if you are profiling this person's experience, you are putting them in a box, you are invalidating everything it is, everything that makes them who they are. You are ignoring their motivation for behaving the way they are, because, like, we always say feminism is not like a character trait. It's something that's, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're literally on a journey, you get it. And I feel like people are moving at a different speeds, because yeah, we are not in the same parts of the world. We grew up under different socialization. Even if, like, we are all cis women, you're, oh, I'm saying we are cis women. I'm not a cis woman. But like, even if you pick 30
You
cis
are a
women,
cis woman, Gail.
I am.
She's not hetero. Yeah.
Thank you for the correction. Thank you. So I feel like even when you pick about 30 cis women, and they are from different parts of the
Mm-hmm.
world, their experiences are obviously not going to be the same, because culture and how they are socialized will play a part. Again, back to intersectional feminism. So yeah, I think it's useful, but like, maybe we are starting to use them out of context. That's what makes it problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been seeing videos for and against calling women birds, and a lot of the people who are for calling women birds say, like, it's people who are birds who are fighting for women not to be called birds. Because if you are not a bird, why are you bothered that, like, the word is being used, and that they call other women bird because they think these women need to be shamed for the decisions they are making. And I saw one particular video which, like, egged me, because she literally used a scenario of a woman who is constantly being cheated on but staying in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of times when people think of domestic violence and abuse, they only think of physical, they never
Yeah.
think of, like, emotional abuse. So people do not see a woman staying with, like, a cheating man as abuse. They just think that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
she just, like, she likes men too much. Basically, they water it down to, oh, she likes this man too much, that's why it's there. But when you say things like that, you are not factoring in the emotional abuse this person has endured. Because getting cheated on, even for the first time, what you will go through, your self confidence and your self esteem, you need to be someone who, from, like, a really, really young age, maybe, like, your parents really built you up, you have amazing friendships. It's not everyone who has that support system to be able to walk away the first time
Yeah.
they are cheated on. And so, if it happens the first time and they do not have a support system and they stay, it starts chipping away at their self esteem, at their self confidence. You cannot use a scenario like that and say, oh, because of this, I need to shame this woman so that she can leave the relationship that she's in, so she can leave a cheating man. That is not going to work. At that point, I just feel like you are just circling back to misogyny yourself, because, like, why are you blaming the woman for the man's actions? What, you're victim blaming, basically. So yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
I've said a lot. Please jump in so that I can stop talking.
I feel like in that case, yeah, again, the woman is oppressing herself, because she is in a way, trapping herself in this situation by defending the perpetrator, by defending her abuser. So she is, to me, a victim in that scenario. But for example, a pick me situation for me that is really spiteful is a woman saying that, oh, if you have premarital sex, then you're worthless, and only virgin women are worthy of being loved, or things like that, by shaming other women for their sexuality. Now that's a pick me, and that is someone who deserves to be shamed and to be called a pick me for that. um and I think that we should refrain from using languages that historically have been used to shamed and sexualize women.
Yeah.
So, for example, I always say that if you are criticizing someone, you should criticize their content and their characters rather than criticizing things that are outside of their control, let's say.
Yeah.
That's why I always feel a little bit iffy about like calling out a man saying, "Oh, he has small dick energy," for example, because in a way, we are body shaming men, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to have whatever size you are. It's fine. It does not make you an incel. You know what I mean? I know it's a low hanging fruit in a way. It is kind of fun to say, but at the same time, it feels like a low hanging fruit, and it cheapens your argument and it
Yeah.
cheapens your criticism of them, because you're not giving anything constructive. You're not creating a discourse, but rather you are resorting to insults, right?
Yeah.
So it's like calling a woman like, oh, you're a slut for doing this, or you're a whore for doing that, or like calling names or saying like, oh, you're a bitch, when you are not exactly contributing to the discourse by adding by even pointing out the characters, right? Or if you're looking at their video content, you're not criticizing the content of their video or of anything that they put out. Like, why is that problematic? Rather than you resort to, oh, you look like that, or that's why you like that, because you look like that, that kind of thing. It feels in a way like we are falling back to the patriarchy by
Yes.
claiming that
Yes.
we are avoiding the patriarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with you. Um, do you do you think, or do you kind of feel that, especially in online spaces, using these dehumanizing language, this kind of dehumanizing language, can kind of establish some form of hierarchy about, like, who belongs to like a better feminism and who doesn't? Does it do that?
um okay, so I feel like this is an argument that I have heard from people from the left and the right before. So, I've heard the argument that people would say, oh, the left is so nitpicky and they're so intolerant. That's why people just turn to the right, because they feel like they can't do anything right. Or the left is so intolerant of everything. That's why people turn to the right, because they embrace them, because all you need to do to belong to the right wing is to hate other people. And people would also say, with the way that people were shaming Katy Perry, we shouldn't be surprised if Katy Perry comes out as being conservative or MAGA in like a year or two, because people on the left are criticizing her so much. I feel like I I can see why people think that way, but at the same time, I think sometimes, so people on the internet aren't all good or all bad.
Yeah.
There are some people who are genuinely vitriol. Um, but at the same time, I do feel like you can't just, I don't know, like, I think there needs to be a balance somewhere. You shouldn't dehumanizing anyone unless you're an incel or MAGA, then I'm sorry, you're fair game. Um, but yeah, it is, again, it is very nuanced. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. But I think, is it also possible that we as feminists, before we call other women out, we so it's like you said before, that we don't call people out for things that are outside their control, but
Mhm.
we make like our call for accountability more constructive. I feel like
Mhm.
that will make a big difference. So before you comment on someone's post like, oh, you're a bird, or like you're a pick me, instead of just watching, like, whatever it is you think you are doing into those words, maybe your criticism could be a little bit more constructive. I know, like, it's a lot of work, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like
I do feel like
mhm.
I do feel like I understand that, but also I understand that sometimes you just don't want to write a whole essay
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to
Cause
explain to someone why they're wrong. I mean, okay, for example, going back to my original example, if a woman comes out and she's like, I don't want to vote. I want my husband to vote for me. You kind of look at that and you roll your eyes like, do I have to explain to her why women need to vote? At that point, you're like, I'm not, whatever I say, she's not gonna listen to it. So I'm just gonna call her pick me because how can you explain to someone, how can you explain to a grown woman why women need the rights to vote,
vote.
right? If you go to
Yeah.
school, you should know. If you have critical thinking, you should know. We shouldn't have to write an essay to explain to her why women need to vote.
I think, like, it just goes. I love so much that I discovered intersectional feminism, because it's made nuance a thing for me. So now,
Yeah.
like, I'm never really in like a black and white position with like a lot of things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, we can acknowledge that women cause harm. A lot of women cause harm. Women uphold patriarchy. Women play into misogyny. Women can be abusive. They can be homophobic. They can be transphobic. Like, there can be a lot of things, and that is a fact. And we can also critique women, but maybe we should not dehumanize women when we are critiquing them. Like, basically, I think, like,
So I'm going to add a little bit on that, especially when it comes to domestic abuse. So I was reading this book called Rage Becomes Her. Forgot who it's by. I'm going to check right now. But the book is by Soraya Chemali. Yeah, the book is basically about how we can use our anger, embrace anger, and use it as a tool for change. And in one part of it, she was talking about women who internalize benevolent sexism, and she was talking about how she experienced a lot of vitriol from women like that. And one of the reasons why women who internalize benevolent sexism are the way that they are is due to fear. So for them, they think that, oh, if you behave a certain way, then you're not gonna experience the repercussion, you're not gonna experience the abuse, or you're not gonna experience the violence committed towards women, right? So these women would think, okay, if I don't go out late at night, if I don't sleep with men, if I don't have premarital sex, if I do XYZ, then I'm not going to be sexually abused and I'm not going to experience domestic violence, because they believe that it's something that's within their control.
yeah,
That's why when women like us who are saying that no, it's not within your control, no matter what you do, if whatever you wear, if a man wants to abuse he will abuse you. For women who internalize benevolent sexism, they don't want to see that, they don't want to understand that, because if they start thinking about it that way, they realize that they have no control over their situation,
yeah,
they have no control over their lives, And that is a terrifying thing to think, right? That is a terrifying
That's
thing to
true.
accept, to just accept that you can go out one day and then you get assaulted for no fucking reason, even if you've done everything, quote unquote, right. So for them, they hold on to that because they want to have a semblance of control and to live in delusion that the world is safe if they follow whatever it is that they're told to follow.
Yeah, yeah. I perfectly agree with you. Um, I feel like you've already given some good points to like our next and final thing, which is how we can hold other women accountable without like dehumanizing them or circling back to internalized misogyny ourselves. I think sometimes even in feminist spaces, when you're having a conversation with someone and there's disagreements in opinions, the language can turn weird like really quickly, where some people
Mm-hmm.
start throwing insults around. So I have a personal experience. I was not insulted, but there's I knew someone. We were in like a group together and everything. We used to have feminist conversations. So one day she left the group because so the group, even though it was a group of feminists, it was a very diverse group where we had like the kind of extremist radical feminists, the ones who are like
Mm-hmm.
who believe in bioessentialism and everything. We had those people in there, and then there were intersectional feminists, and like I'm so happy to say that I've been able to pull some people out of like the bioessentialism arguments and
Mm-hmm.
towards like the more
Yeah.
intersectional feminism. So yeah, we had people with different views. We had feminists in the group who were Muslims, who were Christians, and some of us like were very 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 much against religion. So we used to have,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes our conversations would blow up, but we always found a way to like find the middle ground, and then we just move on. So one of the times
Mm-hmm.
the topic was marriage, and the premise was that um marriage is oppressive. Like that just says marriage is oppressive. So you as a feminist can make a choice that you are going to get
Yeah.
married. That's okay, but you cannot say that your marriage is a feminist choice or is rooted in feminism. So that was the premise of the
Yeah.
conversation we're having. And she's a married feminist, and she says her husband is a feminist, and she got really annoyed about some of the takes, and so she left the group. So I think we had added each other privately. So she started replying to my post when I post and all that. And then there are times when I post something like a commentary, she will give her 2 Ps and then we'll have a conversation and all that. So I think not really long ago, something happened, and so I did another like commentary thingy on my Snapchat on how marriage is inherently like oppressive, and just like getting surgery as a woman. No, I'm not coming to tell you that don't get it. If you're a feminist and you
Mm-hmm.
want to do those things, you can go ahead and do those things. However, I don't think you can come and tell me that your action was just for you, and like there's no misogyny or no patriarchy at play in that decision you made. I don't think it's necessarily a feminist choice. So we were having that conversation, and she brought it up. So there was like a little bit of back and forth. And I thought we actually ended on a good note where I understand
Mm-hmm.
that she's married, and I understand that she says her husband is a feminist, and her husband is even one of the reasons why she's the feminist she is. And like, okay, I'm happy for you. But I've not gotten to the point where I would think of it as a feminist choice. So her argument she was trying to buttress mine was no, to debate mine, is that if marriage was inherently patriarchal, then queer marriage wouldn't exist. That was her argument. And I was also trying to tell her
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she should box queer marriage, because like that's a whole thing that was fought for. I don't think she should box the two like into one thing. I'm having a conversation about like a heteronormative like relationships that progresses into marriage, and how a lot of times women suffer and are oppressed in these marriages. That was the angle I was coming from. So, and I did tell her that I'm always open to learning. Just that I'm at this point where this is what I think. Maybe years down the line, I will come across new information that might let me see her perspective. So obviously, I thought the conversation ended on a good note. A second later, I realized she blocked me. She blocked me.
Oh my god.
I'm like, girl, what the fuck? So I sent her a whole essay. I found her TikTok and I sent her a whole essay that like, that's actually very weird behavior. Cause like we as feminists, we should be able to create space to not agree on anything. And I also found out that that's actually what she does with other feminists. So if she's not able to convince you to see her point, she just thinks that your way of thinking is terrible, and so she blocks you, which I found to be so problematic. Because what are we doing here? So just because I don't agree with you, suddenly I'm just terrible. And she actually texted a mutual friend to tell them that she has blocked me because she hates my line of thinking. I'm like, girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, all this to say that
I get that.
I think a lot of times in feminist spaces we confuse disagreements and different point of views with someone trying to cause you harm. It's sometimes people just like, we are at different points in life. Like, it's okay to acknowledge that. Oh, I feel like I've spoken for so long. Not I feel like I have spoken for so long. Please stop.
I do feel like I'm going to chime in a little bit on the whole marriage conversation. I do think that marriage is a patriarchal institution, and we are criticizing it as an institution. We're not criticizing each individual marriage.
Yes.
Each individual marriage is, of course, different. It varies from couple to couple, from people to people. We're not saying that all marriages are the same degree of patriarchal. Maybe your marriage is more equal than others. I mean, there are degrees to it, but as a whole, as an institution, marriage is a patriarchal institution. And try as you might, your husband is still benefiting more from marriage than you, from things like him being a Mr. and you being a Mrs. to show that you move from being a Miss to a Mrs. to show the ownership of you, like your identity has changed. So something as simple as that, it's out of your control. People are gonna call you Mrs. unless you go and correct everyone, which again, it takes more of your time compared to your husband. So your husband benefits from not having to tell everyone to not change his title.
Period.
But yeah, you're not benefiting from that. My battery is at 5%.
Yeah, we need to wrap up.
So I'm just gonna wrap this up. But yeah, as a whole, marriage is an institution. It is patriarchal. And I do think that even queer marriages, it can be patriarchal as well. Because there's always, at least in Cambodia, one person would be the husband and one would be the wife in a way. So one person would always hold a higher power than the other person.
Yeah. Because I'm seeing a lot of queer marriages also feeding into heteronormative ways of queer relationships in general.
Exactly.
We see that happening. So, yeah, I think just to wrap this
Can
up.
I charge my phone? Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. Just to wrap this up, I think we need to allow room for growth, but that does not mean that you cannot critique what other women do. You can critique what other women do without dehumanizing them, without using dehumanizing language. And context is also always very important. And please read more about intersectional feminism so that you can learn that nuance almost always exists in every situation, so that we can, I don't know, sometimes find grace for the people we are dealing with based on their motivations for the things they do, based on the situations they are in, because not everything is always black and white, okay? So yeah, thank you for joining us today. We are wrapping this up real quick because Kat's phone is about to go off. So, as always, follow us on social media as Unholy Feminists on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube. You can also listen to us on all podcast apps. And until next time, gotcha. Bye.
Bye.